This is the kind of story I want you guys to all have. You have it already in your life, but I want you to go back and dig it out. So like when somebody says, so why are you like the way you are? Like what is it about you that makes you you? You shouldn't have to think about that. You should be able to go, well, it's this. It's like I read this, or I did this, or I went to that seminar, or I listened to that guy, I saw him at church. Whatever the thing is, you should be able to tell that story. And you've thought about it 5,000 times, but you've never actually told the story in 3.5 minutes to where somebody can go, wow, that's really a nice thing.
People are shocked when they see the counterintuitive method he's using to help his students deliver engaging, magnetic, and irresistible presentations on Zoom, and it's working. Welcome to part 2 of the recent interview I did with world-renowned persuasion expert, Dr. Kevin Hogan. I'm Ken Newhouse. Building a profitable business isn't only about generating leads and driving sales. It's about who we are and what we're made of. It's about finding the most effective methods to persuade, inspire, and ignite the imagination of others so you can succeed in business. If you're a member of the new breed of entrepreneur, I invite you to join the quest as we reveal the newest and most effective methods you can use to get clients now. Dry, dull, boring, exhausting, painful, waste of time, forgettable. Those are the words and phrases that came up when I asked people, what would you use to describe the Zoom presentations, the virtual presentations and webinars that you attend? Listen, everybody knows that most Zoom, i.e. virtual presentations, are boring, uninspiring, and almost always forgotten immediately once they're finished. You're not going to ask you why this is happening, but you already know the answer. The vast majority of people doing Zoom presentations aren't engaging and they can't hold your attention, which means the value you obtain from their content is often worthless. And like most professionals who do online presentations today, the major skill set these individuals are missing is the ability to present charismatically. That is to say, their presentations aren't magnetic or irresistible, which makes it virtually impossible to engage with attendees and move them to take the action you want. I think it's fair to say that everybody knows that if a presenter fails to engage with his audience, he's not going to convince, educate, or persuade them. And to help illustrate this point, let's do this. Let's put the topic of doing virtual presentations, which for the most part are done on Zoom or GoToMeeting. Let's go ahead and put them on the sidelines for just a minute, and I want to take a look at the people that you engage with over the course of a week. And we're going to use last week as a prime example. Now, I want you to answer this question. Of all the people you engaged with last week, whether it's at work or in your personal life, how many of those people would honestly consider you to be a quote-unquote charismatic person? So after they've engaged with you, whether it was for 90 seconds or 90 minutes, when they went home later that day, what did they tell their friends and family about you? Now, if you're a charismatic individual, it's very, very likely that they couldn't help but talk about you to other people. If they went home and didn't mention you at all, other than maybe that, hey, this guy was really boring, or this gal was just flat as a pancake, she didn't inspire me, she couldn't hold my attention, her content was really boring, you might get that. But if you're a really charismatic individual, they're going to talk about you. They're not going to be able to help themselves. I'm Ken Newhouse, and I'm going to welcome you to episode 399 of the Get Clients Now podcast. And my guest today is my good friend, Dr. Kevin Hogan, who, along with Dr. Robert Cialdini, is considered one of the world's leading experts in persuasion. Now, if you're like me, my successful clients, and most of the people who listen to the Get Clients Now podcast, you know who Dr. Hogan is. But if you don't, let me fill you in quickly. Dr. Hogan's background is varied. He's owned Network Publishing 3000 for 30 years, where he publishes some of his own work and that of many other authors. And meanwhile, many of his books have actually been published by Pelican, who published all of Zig's books. Zig Ziglar, I'm talking about. Many of his other books have been published by John Wiley & Sons, the largest business publisher in the world. Dr. Hogan's given in excess of 1,000 live presentations around the world, including unique and rare audiences, as well as having had a presidential advisor to his home for a 3-day weekend. This is something we talk about during the conversation today. But he had an advisor to one of our presidents. Actually, he's consulted for 2 of our presidents, but a direct advisor to the President of the United States came to his home and spent 3 grueling 10-hour days with Dr. Hogan. As you listen to today's conversation, you're in for a real treat because the information Dr. Hogan unveils has never been released to the public. Specifically, he's going to unveil the latest strategies he's discovered that will help you become more charismatic so you can present on Zoom and social media charismatically. And when you can learn how to do that, your ability to ethically persuade prospects and clients to take the actions you want them to take will become automatic and effortless. Today, you're not only going to learn what charisma is and how to get it, but you're also going to learn 2 of Dr. Hogan's newest and most effective persuasion techniques. Number 1, asking the right questions, and number 2, telling the right stories so you can become magnetic and irresistible in the eyes of your Zoom audiences. Dr. Hogan's also going to share with you the latest law of persuasion he's codified, and he's going to give you examples of how to use this compelling content with your clients and patients. No one else has this yet, and ironically, it can have a huge impact on your ability to be seen as an individual possessing great levels of charisma. Now, before we dive into the interview with Dr. Hogan, let me say this. He delivered so much content and so much value during our time together that I've decided to split the conversation up over 2 episodes. So today's part 1 of the conversation, and next week, which will be episode 400 of the Get Clients Now podcast, is going to wrap up with part 2 of the conversation. So if you're ready to learn the secrets for becoming a charismatic presenter, if you're ready to learn how to become magnetic and irresistible in your Zoom presentations, and if you're ready to learn how to get people to take action effortlessly and automatically, let's go ahead and welcome Dr. Kevin Hogan onto the show.
People need to know that you don't know everything. You know why? Because they go home and they say, God, that girl, she thinks she knows everything. That guy over there, he thinks he knows everything. You know what Kevin knows? He knows 5 things. Okay, he knows about 5 subjects. That's it. And then he's done. That's all he's got. He's pretty good at those 5 subjects, but that's all he got. That's the first thing I want you to do is get a self-deprecating piece of humor. Self-deprecating piece of humor. Have a story that you can tell on yourself. A story that you can tell about yourself. Like, I was on a flight to Salt Lake City. We all have airline stories, right? So believe me, I know that you almost got killed too, okay? Everybody's almost got killed on the airplane because of the turbulence, you were terrified. By the way, the turbulence never does anything. It just shakes you up, wakes you up, and makes you nervous. It still makes me nervous, but it doesn't do nothing. I actually went out to Boeing and got to look at them, how they test their wings. Trust me, you're fine. So the engines, the number 2 engine's going out. There was a 2-engine plane that I was on going into SLC, talked to Andy Watson at the FAA. And I said, can you tell me what happened up in the sky yesterday? This is Sunday. I'm doing boot camp in Las Vegas. He's like, yeah, he says, you had a double engine malfunction, I believe is what he called it. I'm like, you're telling me. I'm like, I was not my normal self. Sitting next to the Airbus pilot. The Airbus pilot looks at me. He's got the Delta magazine, right? Airbus pilot looks at me and he says, first words we said, both of us don't want to talk to people. I don't want to talk to him. He doesn't want to talk to me. There's no engines on the plane. And so he says, how far is it to here? And he was pointing to Salt Lake City, right? SLC. And I was like, we're going to Vegas. And I was like, I don't know. I didn't realize we had a problem yet. I had no idea. I am so stupid. It's unbelievable. I'm sitting. I don't notice that it's quiet on the plane, like silent. And I said, I don't know. I look out the thing and I still see mountains. And I've done this Vegas trip 80 or 100 times. I'm like, probably, I don't know, 80 or 100 miles, 120 miles. He says, it makes a difference. And I was like, really? It makes a difference. Now let me look again. Okay, so we're going in there. I'm thinking 80 miles. He's like, okay. And you could just see him doing math computations in his head. I said, okay, talk to me because I'm not a great flyer, okay? I do a lot, but I'm a nervous kind of dude. Like I get a little edgy if I don't know what's going on. He says, well, we'll probably be fine. Cool, we'll probably be fine. From the flight deck. This is the flight deck. Just wanted to let you know that on most days, this would be a beautiful day to fly. And it is a beautiful day to fly. And we will be on the ground soon. We've been unable to get the left engine restarted. The right one went out over North Dakota, but everything was fine. We had good control of the plane. Everything is good. And we'll be on the ground in SLC in about 9 minutes. I call my son. I got my phone and I get it ready to push send. I'm like, I'm not pushing send until I actually am close to the ground, right? I don't want to interfere. I don't think it matters, but just in case, I don't want to interfere. So it's like, I'm sitting here. I was going to tell him, so we were coming down and it was really interesting. You go like this. And I asked Andy, what are they doing? When I went talked to him the next day at the FAA, and he says, you're slowing down because you don't have any engines to stop the plane, Kev. I'm like, cool. I'm glad I didn't know that. So as we're coming in over, we're going to either die or live within seconds. That was what we knew. And so all of the emergency vehicles, literally, I saw them coming this way as I'm looking out Frenchie's window over here like that. And he was on the window and I had the aisle. And I'm looking like this. And I see I'd be making up an exact number because I was so scared. I'm going to say it was 9 or 10. There was 9 or 10 fire trucks that were all painted green and yellow. Why they weren't red, I don't know. So we're coming down and coming down and coming down. And we actually land. The landing's perfect. I hit send on my phone. As soon as we touched down, I hit, and the phone went straight to voicemail, second ring. And I said, son, just wanted to let you know I'm in Salt Lake City. I love you so much. You're the best kid in the world. Love you. Bye, Dad. Boom, like that. We are going, and all he's got is his, and this is the part where I don't know anything about airplanes. He's got his brakes on the wheels. That's it. Just the back two wheels. I'm like, this is not going good. And so we're like going down the runway with, I've done this in Minnesota before in the winter when I was a kid. It's like, I know how this ends. It's usually not good. And we're like going like this. And we finally come to the halt. And I'm like, oh, thank God we're probably at the gate. Look out the window. We're not at the gate. No, instead we're surrounded by fire people and trucks and all this kind of stuff. And I asked Frenchie, I said, why are they doing that? They said, they're here to put the fire out. I said, we don't have a fire, dude. We're okay. He says, they don't know that. And they think there's a fire. I'm like, okay, we're going to be fine, right? He says, you want to drive with me to Las Vegas? The rest of the way, right? So this is a self-deprecating story because Kev is scared. People always see Kevin as being like the guy who's always in charge and always in control. Not true. Okay, that's one. The next kind of story I like is a Genesis story. So I'm going to ask you a story. Your Genesis story. A Genesis story is how we got our beginning with something, okay? So Ken, your audience probably knows it, but I don't know it. So tell me how you got involved in chiropractic and what the heck got you into doing like podcasts and stuff like that, because that's a lot of work. So I'm just curious. Give me your story. What's your story?
What got me into chiropractic is that I was a computer programmer and I wanted to start in competitive bodybuilding. And so I took an anatomy class at night. And it just so happens that the instructor of the anatomy class was the dean of neurology or the head neurology instructor at Logan University, Logan College of Chiropractic. And quite honestly, I didn't know what a chiropractor was at the time, but met some other people that were going to go to school there. And so I'm like, you know what? I would really love that because I would be with people and I would make a lot more money and I wouldn't be stuck coding all day and doing boring stuff. So that's how I became a chiropractor. And how I got into podcasting was that while I was in practice as a chiropractor, I was involved in a head-on collision with a dump truck, no fault of my own. I've gone through 18 surgeries. My audience knows this, so I won't bore them. That put the kibosh on my practice. I had multiple clinics, saw an average of 100 to 125 patients a day, just myself in my own individual clinic. But it was very physically demanding. And after that accident, just over the years, it just got to the point where I just physically could not stand the pain of doing that with all the surgeries I had. And so I started consulting. First, I started consulting with chiropractors. Then I met the beautiful and talented Lisa, who was a dental sales pharmaceutical rep. She's like, dentists make a lot more money. You're doing an awesome job with these chiropractors, but you can make a ton more money working with dentists. That's how I got to work with dentists. And over the years, worked with them, kind of got bored, as I told you before we started the podcast. No discredit to the dental clients that I have, but I need some variety. I was invited to speak at a local chamber meeting, which I would never attend a chamber of commerce for any reason other than the fact that I was invited to speak. And people wanted to know how they could join my coaching or whatever. And I said, I'm not accepting clients. I don't know how we got on the subject, but they said, well, do you have a podcast or anything we could listen to? I said, no, I don't, but I've always wanted to do that. I've always wanted to write a book. I finally did that. And since then, I've written 2 more. Just finished the Profitable Podcast Blueprint. Awesome book based on my experience as a podcaster and how to attract new clients. But having said that, that's how I got started podcasting. And I made the commitment before I started. I would podcast for 12 months, no matter what the results were. I would do my best. I thought, how hard can this be? I have coaching clients. I do webinars. I present from the front of the room like you do. Obviously, I haven't done it 1,000 times, but I've done a lot. Selling 6-figure coaching programs. I thought, how hard can this podcasting thing be? It took me 11 months to get my first client from my podcast. And I was on the verge, I was ready to quit until I finally started to figure it out. And having guests like you and mentors like you was one of the ways that I was able to figure it out. So that's my story and I'm sticking to it.
This is a really great Genesis story because we sort of have a 2-for-1 deal here, guys. Now this is really super important. When people ask you about your Genesis story, and obviously you guys listen to Ken, so you've heard this story or something similar in the past. I want you to literally think about your story that you're going to tell. Okay, think about the story that you're going to tell because people will say, how did you get your start in the business? Not because they're astute, because they got lucky that day usually. It's like, ooh, I have a good question to ask you. It's like you're curious. But this is one of the things. How did you guys meet? How did you come across each other? How is it that you went to work for that company instead of this one over here? Okay, these are all Genesis stories. In the beginning, I was doing something else. And then I decided I was going to do something else and try something else. And then it actually worked. People love to tell Genesis stories. So you have a double win here. If you can ask a person what their Genesis story is, don't say, hey, Bill, what's your Genesis story? Please don't do that, okay? At least, and not admit that you know me. Instead, you say, hey, how is it that you guys got going doing this? How is it that you got started in the dental field when there's so many people out there already doing it? The competition is incredibly deep. Same thing is true with chiropractic, by the way. There's tons of chiropractors. How is it that you got going and really decided that you wanted to enjoy this world instead of that world over there? You know, those are the kinds of Genesis stories that you can ask. People want to tell their story, but now you also have the question. And one of the key questions that we can ask somebody is for somebody else's Genesis story. How the heck did you guys meet anyway? Lisa, right? It's Lisa? That's your wife?
The beautiful and talented Lisa is my wife, yes.
Beautiful and talented Lisa. I'm telling you, I will remember that forever, okay? I got that down. So here's the deal. So somehow Ken nailed this strategy for finding the beautiful and talented Lisa. He got a 2-for-1 deal out of the whole thing.
And she's a world-class skier. He won the Junior Olympics. Well, actually, let me clarify that. She finished second. I'm a good skier. I'm embarrassed to go skiing with my wife because it's like, hey, I'll see you later. I mean, she's just gone. So she's not only beautiful and talented, super smart, and she's my best friend, but she is a phenomenal skier, just an absolutely phenomenal skier.
And the guy that really is impressed with his wife, or the guy that's really impressed with his girlfriend, actually wants to talk about her. Okay. That's a really cool thing to know, guys. If they say, oh yeah, we met about 10 years ago, blah, blah, blah. Leave it alone. They got a challenge. Okay. They don't want to deal with it. But it's like, well, you know what happened was I've heard so many awesome stories. I can't even believe it. Ask people, how did you meet your wife? How did you meet your husband? How did he get you? You know, it's like, there's a lot of good guys out. Well, okay, so there's 11. There's 11 good guys. And how did you get this guy? You know, and then she's got a story too that's going to be different than his, but they'll dovetail. Okay. And these are the stories that people want to tell. Wouldn't it be cool as a way? How can you build charisma better than having you tell me your favorite story, the story that you know better than anything, how you met? And you can actually tell me, and I'm sitting there going, doggone it, that is cool. That is seriously cool. And the person knows that you're really smart and that you're really sweet and that you're really cool. All in one. That's charisma, okay? That's charisma. And you're saying, Kev, that's manipulative. Let me just get a quick conversation here on this manipulation thing. If you are manipulative enough, you can train yourself to be a good person, okay? If you're manipulative enough, you can train yourself to be a good person because you're going to ask questions like, what? What happened today that was good? Or how did things go at the track meet? Were you able to run today? I was able to run. Dad, I actually finished in the middle of the pack today. My kid's got asthma. I'm seriously proud of him. I'm like, wow, that is really cool. And so the way that we ask questions and the way that we respond then is awesome. Next thing is that people are telling stories. We all need to tell stories and we all have to share, which, by the way, brings us to our next one. Your signature story is really important. Everybody needs to have a signature story. This is the driving force of your life. I have two, okay? So I'm going to share with you one signature story. Somebody said to me one time, yeah, Kevin, I like your signature story about the little girl in the wheelchair in Chicago when you're doing the book signing, and she was really cool. But what would happen if that didn't happen to you? What would you tell instead? It took me some minutes to think, like, what would I tell? Like that, because a signature story is like, this is the definition of your life, okay? Well, the definition of my life happened one day, and I was 12 and a half. I was 12 and a half years old. We're in Chicago. And we have a little teeny 600 square foot house for 7 people. My mom was there and Dad was not there. And so he was in the process of being in the hospital and stuff. And in comes a station wagon. A station wagon is one of these big long things that's not big as a minivan yet. So a station wagon drives in and all of a sudden out come three kids in Boy Scout uniforms, and like a scout leader type of a thing. Now, this is really weird in Chicago. I'm telling you, this don't happen very often. I'd never seen it before, never saw it since. So all of a sudden, these guys are bringing in groceries. Like they're bringing in groceries. And so they come into knock on the door. My mom answers. My mom, there's a follow-up to the story. So she's like, yes, the whole neighborhood. And we had a big neighborhood, lots of people in Chicago. We're all looking like, what is going on? And so she lets these 3 Boy Scouts and 2 scout leaders in. They were in there for a good 5 minutes. And then they came back out, did not look at any of us, looked at none of us. None of us. There were us 5 kids in my family, the 5 from across the street, 4 next door this way, 2 over here. Everybody was there. We had like a football team worth of people watching. And they just got back in the car and they carefully left and they were gone. They're like, Kev, what happened? I'm like, I got no idea. So I'm the oldest. I got to go in and see. I'm 12 years old. Mom. And I looked at the table. The table was filled. We had a Thanksgiving turkey. We didn't have any money to buy a Thanksgiving turkey. Okay. We had mashed potatoes and cranberry sauce, and there was gravy, and there were 2 candles lit. I was shocked. That was cool. There were candles lit. And it's like, there was like, everybody had like, there was Diet Cokes all the way around the table. And I don't know how they came up with this whole thing. I don't know how it happened. My mom certainly didn't ask for this. That's a fact. But she was crying when I walked in the door. And she says, honey, we're going to have Thanksgiving this year. That was Thanksgiving Day, right? That was Thanksgiving Day. And so it was later than everybody else's. It was like 5:30 in the evening, 6 o'clock. I don't recall exactly, but the sun was going down. So that I decided as I got older is like the thing that really made a difference in my life that changed me to who I was going to be was like, we're going to make people have Thanksgiving all over the world, not necessarily for specifically Thanksgiving, but for something really cool for that person or special for their family. So we've picked families and we've also picked nations, by the way, at times. We helped Rwanda during genocide and other things. And I'm not saying this for any reason, just to tell you that you don't have to do exactly what was done unto you. Sometimes you can do things that are variations. But what we got is that nobody was bragging that day. Nobody said, hey, kid, the reason that we're here is we're taking care of your family for Thanksgiving. Nobody said anything like that. They didn't say nothing. They were just good people. So as I look at my life, that's my signature story. If I don't tell the other story, that's what drives Kevin Hogan is what can we do to make the world just a teeny bit better today over there? Because somebody did it for us. And I realized how important to have a real holiday was so freaking cool. It was unbelievable. A lot of people don't get a holiday, and we got one. And the only reason we got it was because somebody somewhere around us told the Boy Scouts that, the Hogans, they got nothing, man. I go, if you wanted to help them, you just know. Nobody ever told us. Nobody told us. We never found out. And so we replicated this going forward into the future. This is the kind of story I want you guys to all have. You have it already in your life, but I want you to go back and dig it out. So like when somebody says, so why are you like the way you are? What is it about you that makes you you? You shouldn't have to think about that. You should be able to go, well, it's this. It's like, I read this, or I did this, or I went to that seminar, or I listened to that guy, I saw him at church. Whatever the thing is, you should be able to tell that story. And you've thought about it 5,000 times, but you've never actually told the story in 3.5 minutes to where somebody can go, wow, that's really a nice thing. I'm glad that happened, that those people did that to you so you could do something for the rest of the world. And then go out and do it. And you know what? There's no better feeling in the whole wide world doing that kind of a thing for somebody. Your Genesis story is huge. Your Genesis, what drives you? What is it that moves you forward? That's the deal. Okay. That's the whole deal. So that's that story. So that's a Genesis story. You got time for one more?
One more, and then I got a couple more questions.
I want everybody to have an ethics story. Okay. And I just told you that I had an advisor from the West Wing of the White House at my house. I can't say who that was, but I can tell you this. I can tell you that 2.5 years before that happened, in 2007, I was invited. I got a phone call. I don't know if you guys know who this guy is because he's kind of old now, but his name is Dennis Hopper. Dennis Hopper is a Hollywood actor.
I know Dennis.
You know Dennis? Okay, cool. All right. So Dennis, the name appears on the caller ID. My daughter answers the phone. This is 2007. And she says, Daddy, she says, it's a 310 area code. And it says, she says, it's Hopper, Dennis. I'm like, what? Excuse me? She says, you better take this one, Dad, whatever it is. I say, Kevin Hogan speaking. Can I help you? So it's a woman's voice. It's his wife, Victoria. Beautiful actress, wonderful girl. We had a great conversation for 2.5 hours. Short story of it is this. She basically said, we know you're a big Elton John fan and that you love Elton and that you would love to meet him. Well, here's the deal. We actually mentioned you to Elton in a meeting the other day. We have a lot of Hollywood celebrities that want to be able to impact their influence on the election of President or the Senator Obama, Senator from Illinois, and everybody knows I'm from Illinois. And now the problem is that I'm not a conservative or a liberal. I don't really have a side. And I have picked sides occasionally, but I usually don't. So Victoria was wonderful. We talked for 2.5 hours. She flaunted with flattery and praise and all this kind of stuff. She invited me for tea that weekend to go to their house to have tea and look at their art collection in the art house, what they call the art house. And she says, please help us with the Obama campaign. We really believe that the country needs this president. And I said, look, here's the deal. Mr. Obama is a very smart man. I'm from Chicago. I'm very well aware of who he is. I know what's going on. I just can't support this gentleman at the time. He is a gentleman, by the way. He's a good person. It's just not my politics. And she says, well, what is your politics? I've never known. I don't really have, I'm a libertarian. I like, don't come on my land. I won't go on yours. It's like, everything will be fine. And she says, oh man, we would really appreciate, we'll pay you. She actually brought up the money. And I was like, whoa, really? Oh, okay. And she named a number that was so big that it actually stopped me. It stopped me. Okay, it did. And I was like, and about 60 seconds maybe went by. And I said, no, I can't. I just can't. I go, I respect the man. He's done so much for the minorities in Illinois. There's no doubt about that. But I just can't. It's not for me. And she said, well, you're still invited for tea on Saturday, and Dennis and I would love to have you over. And I was like, I live in Minnesota. We're going to fly for tea. So she was elegant, cool, and amazing. Now, here's the deal. This is my ethics story, but it also has another benefit to it, right? First of all, everybody should have an ethics story. Everybody has to have a boundary in life where they won't do something that they don't believe in 100%. You really need that story, because when you tell that story to people, they go, he has morals, he has ethics, he has values. I might disagree with them. Okay, that's really important too. It's got to be okay for people to disagree, right? Anyway, the other thing it tells you too, your ethics story, if it does include the CEO of your corporation, for example, or for your boss, or for somebody who is well known in the public, you actually sort of get a double bonus here. People not only see the ethics, but the very fact that you were involved in this conversation with somebody else being involved, that actually I was involved with the senator and Hollywood, pretty much one of the best stars of our whole history in America. And they wanted to call me. It was cool, right? It made me feel so good. And my daughter's like, Daddy, why didn't you take that? You idiot. And she just reamed me from left to right. I'm like, honey, we're not going to do that. We got to do the right thing every single time, And she's like, oh, and she was 15, right? She walked away. So that's the deal. So that's your final story. So those are the 4 stories I want you to work on: your self-deprecating humor, your Genesis story, your signature story, your ethics story. Come up with those 4 stories, make them so they're each 6 minutes or less, and you're going to start winning a lot more business and being a lot more charismatic.
Okay, so as it relates to the course, and this is really intriguing to me, and I guess I would say this is more of a selfish question.
Okay.
New discoveries you've made as it relates to being charismatic and persuasive. If you could, just a minute or two, whet our appetite. Let us, kind of bring us behind the curtain, give us kind of a sneak peek at one of the things that you've been working on that's super cool, because I know it will be, and I'm dying to know.
Well, we'll go 2, because maybe 5 years from now, somebody will say, you guys wore masks back then? So just in 30 seconds, people are actually doing a lot of business by wearing a mask, and it's really hard to do it. So in week 8, which is where I'm at right now, we got a 10-week course going. It's a lot of work. But if you really want to be good at what you do, you got to do this kind of stuff. So anyway, nobody's talked to anybody about how to actually do business with a mask on. How do you do business? You can't shake hands anymore. You can't get into people's space. You can't give them a hug. You can't do anything. So one of the things I wanted to show people was how I was looking over here, and I don't think I have my mask down here in the bar area. But when you're wearing your mask, it's a lot harder to be charismatic, because all they can see is your eyebrows, your eyes, and the 2 little lines in your forehead. And that's all you got. So that was one thing that we did. We wanted to do something that no one has ever done before. The second thing we wanted to do was much more general. There you go. Now, look. Now, as you look at Ken here, thank goodness he's got a mask. So as Ken has his mask on, yeah, I can tell he's smiling underneath that, okay? But I get paid to do that. 90% of all people are not going to be able to tell if he's happy, sad, irritated, frustrated, good mood, bad mood. Is he interested in what we're talking about? Thank you very much. I appreciate that very much. Is he there? Like, is he even with us? Because we don't know, because we can't see the facial muscles. It just goes to show you how important nonverbals are, right? The other thing that I wanted to do was to create a course for the ages, because people always, I don't ever consider myself charismatic. Sometimes I watch myself on video and I go, man, that dude is really arrogant. I'll watch myself and I go, I don't like him today. It's like, that's not okay. Get out of there. Go home. You got to change that. Thank goodness we have video. I've seen myself so many times on video. I'm so sick of myself. It's unbelievable. So you sit there and watch, but every now and then you get to watch yourself. And so this is one of the things that people have to do in the course is they have to watch themselves do stuff. Okay. Tell a story, ask a question. How do you look telling a story? How do you look asking a question? How do you look? This is one of the things that we do. And now the person sees, oh my goodness, I'm not all that good. I actually can do better than that. Okay. Or they'll say, that's pretty good. And then they send it to me and I go, okay, here's the deal. I can tell you're a really good person and your story sucks really, really bad. So here's how we're going to start fixing things. We've cordoned off the course to questions, to stories, to strategy. There is a strategy to being charismatic. I'll give you guys a clue as to what it is. Okay. I've written a few books over time, right? So you find, as I was early, I was very linear in how I wrote. The books did fine, by the way. We're okay with that. But what I found out as time went on is there's actually a better way to write and a better way to tell stories, a better way to tell a movie. And so I started to actually analyze things like, Steven Spielberg movies and people who are great producers and directors. That was really the focus. Not so much whether I liked the movie, but like, how did they do it? How did it get so big? And it turns out that just going to church and making people smile is not enough. Okay. You can't just tell one emotion in a story. If you want a story to work, you need two stories. Okay. There are two emotions. You need like fear and relief, like the airplane, you're really kind of nervous. And then you get the relief that Frenchie says will probably live. Probably. Okay. So you get fear and relief. And you know what the best combination is of all? I've never put this on a webinar before. So here you go. You guys get this. This is in the course. 1 hour we use to discuss this. But if you can put disgust and joy in the same story, like I'm really disgusted with what I saw over there today, didn't like to see those people picketing that man's business, tick me off. I don't care if they're right or wrong, whatever. They're hurting other people's business too, whether they like this guy or not. Really not making me happy today, okay? I was just freaking disgusted. And then I say, but you know what? Here's the deal. Guys like that can make it through that, they're going to do all right. And they turn out to be some of the most successful people in the world, the people who can actually be resilient. And you start to actually build this feeling and sense of joy for the person in their future. It's like those stories work the best out of all the paired emotions that we study. So now just take that little 4 minutes and combine it into about 42 hours of lecture content, plus all the exercises the person has to do, and then the homework. They'll either hate me or they'll become the best in the world at the end of it. One of the two. So that's how we do it. We're at week 8. Just so you guys know, we're at week 8. We're in beta right now. This could be 5 years from now. But basically what we're finding out is that some of the most amazing people I know in my life are in this course. They paid. They said, Cav, no, here. Literally, it was pretty cool. It was like to have people who they're your clients and they just want to do this because they've never seen it. Very special, very cool. Makes you feel good inside. But more importantly, they get to take it home. And I'm seeing their homework every single week. I see how good they are, how good they were when we were in Las Vegas a year and a half ago. And then now it's like, and they're getting better. And they were pretty darn good to start with. So that's a little bit of what's in the charisma course, a little bit.
Okay. So you talked about in the course, I know also you cover I think it's, 45, maybe 50 of the most important questions that you can ask a prospective client or your actual clients. Could you whet our appetite and just sneak 2 or 3 of those out for us?
When did you realize that Lisa was actually going to say yes?
To marrying me?
Yeah.
When she asked me to marry her? I'm just kidding. When we were over breakfast, I took her to, and we still go there now frequently. The Sunnyside Cafe is where I asked her. Just the facial expression over the omelet.
When did you realize that you were good as a chiropractor?
I think when people started to refer me other patients and without me asking for referrals when they just said, hey, listen, I just know he can help you. You got to go see this guy.
Okay, guys. Now, for everybody who just listened to that, I just said, when did you realize that? And then some fact, okay? So you're going to fill in that blank. That's one of the most powerful questions on this planet because it's a non-resistant question. You can be a Republican, Democrat, Christian, Jew, doesn't matter. No matter what, people, when they realize something, they didn't decide it. They just realized it. And it's really different. It's like, well, I had to make a choice, or I didn't really want to. It's like, when did you realize you were going to do this? When did you realize she was going to say yes? When did you realize that they were going to give you the job because you were the best person for the job? That's one of the 45. Actually, I think there's 52, but I might have added some. So there's 52 probably because a deck of cards, I kind of think that way in decks of cards. No kidding. So this is like one of those Queen of Hearts questions, man. This is one of the best. When did you realize that? That's a great one. Another one would be, oh my goodness, we already talked about. Tell me about how you got your start in this, or how is it that you got going in this? Okay, that's another great question. And another one is for like right now. So I don't like to ask how the kids, and I literally say it like this, guys. I don't like asking how the kids are, but you got to tell me about them. Like what's going on in their life, It's like, I know you had a hard day yesterday because I'm a parent too, so I know it's a hard day yesterday for sure. And the day before was hard too. And last week was hard too. But nevertheless, we're still proud of these little dudes. What's going on in life over there? What's going on in life over there? It opens the door. They're safe. They'll tell you what they're safe telling you. Stuff like this. You've got to know the exact wording matters a lot. Your heart matters a lot too, right? Your wording and your heart. Like, is this interrogative, or is this like Kev really wants to know? I will literally remember pretty much this entire conversation with Ken, guys. The next time that we talk, I'll know his wife is Lisa, that she was, and so will you. If you've never heard the podcast before, you'll know she's a great skier. Ken is average. He loves to go. He would prefer to watch her ski than probably ski next to her. Okay. So, and she loves him and he loves her, and it matters. You can tell it matters. It's important. These are the things that you take home. You just put them mentally in your head. I don't have to write this part down because I'll remember it because it was in a story. Okay. If it was on a bio sheet, I'd never freaking remember this in a million years. But because it's in a story, I think Ken skiing. Oh, that's Lisa, his wife. Wait a second. How did I remember her name? I don't even know. But that's how the brain works. So just imagine now that we take. Now, here's the secret. There's actually probably 250 questions in the course, of which I only make you master 52, the deck of cards. Each one is like a card. So, but you have to get 52 down. You got to be able to do it well enough to be able to replicate it with different kinds of people who are black and white and green and purple and orange, and men and women and all the other choices that my daughter tells me. My daughter's LGBTQ. I was like, one day she said, Dad, she says, you're such a feminist. I'm like, did you just criticize me or tell me I'm a good dad? I don't even know what that means. She says, no, you're a good man. She says, you're a feminist. And she says, you have your problems too, Dad. Like that. So anyway, these are the kind of things that are in the charisma course. You have to have the self-deprecating humor. You've got to be able to do that elegantly. People have to know that you're good at these 3 things, but that you're not good at everything else. Otherwise, if you're good at everything, that's scary. Like, I don't know if I even trust that or believe that. We got to find out what your best skill areas are. Okay. Elvis didn't go up there and speak about quantum physics. Okay. Paul McCartney doesn't go on stage when he goes on stage and talk about chemistry. They do what they're the best at. Okay. They do it the best at, and they don't know this stuff over here. Then people believe in you and they're more likely to go with you. Don't have the answer to every question outside of your field of expertise. That's a little bit of what's in the charisma course.
Okay, so we're going to get to the course and how people, because I know you're not quite finished with the beta, but you're going to be starting the course anew, like the updated, perfected version of the course. We'll get to that in just a second, but I got one more question, and then we'll talk about how people can get the course and register for it, find out more about you, your website, all that stuff. What's the one question that I should have asked today that I didn't ask?
Kev, why didn't you write those 2 books this year? Where are they? I thought you said you had 2 books coming out. What's wrong?
So by the way, Kevin, Dr. Kevin, I thought it was only 1 book, but I don't know how many you've written now. It was 2, but you've written a ton. But what's up with the books? I mean, I know it's probably COVID, but.
It's 100% about COVID, but not because I don't have the time. I have the time. The books are actually written, but books serve a purpose. Everything you do has to serve multiple purposes in life. And you learn this in the charisma course too. All of your communication is multi-layered and helps in different ways. The books, one of them is called Hypnotic Persuasion. The other one's called Prestige Persuasion. These are two different audiences that I have. I have a sort of like my alternative health audience, and then I have sort of like my business audience all around the world. This is the one that I have to like really have an amazing, perfect project for. This one, people just love Kevin because he's like us. They're two very different sets of criteria. The books are done. We're ready, but there's no way we're releasing them until we know that we can actually go and make a living from the funnel, if you want. I don't like the word, but just imagine that like people say, well, I used to ask people, and the answer was the same all the time. It's like, how did you hear about Kevin Hogan? How did you hear about this guy? Why did you come today? It's like, well, I read this book. A friend of mine gave me a book. I was like, which book? Psychology of Persuasion, Covert Persuasion, Science of Influence. And they start listing off these books. They've read a whole bunch, and now they're coming to Vegas, or they're going maybe overseas internationally in Poland or the UK or Turkey or Australia. So the book turns out to be the best marketing tool for this guy. Not necessarily for everybody, but for this guy it is. So I want the book to come out like right as I'm positive I can get back to Europe. As soon as I know I can get back to Europe and go to the UK, and I can get into Warsaw and Wrocław and Krakow, that's where everybody, I walk down the street and they're like, ooh, that's Kevin Hogan over there. I'm like, I can't believe you can recognize me with my beard. like, that's amazing. So we're waiting. We're just being patient. Very, very, very hard to be patient. I'm not the most patient person, but we're being patient. As soon as we know the world's open, we're published. I really thought it would be by now. I really did, but I was wrong. That'll happen once in a while too. So that's the deal. That's the question you should have asked.
Okay. And so what about your newsletter? Been doing that for 19 years. It's a phenomenal. I mean, I'm just going to say this. I'm going to take a risk. You know your business better than I do, but honestly, you should be charging money for this. I know you just absolutely will not do that, but tell us about the newsletter, Coffee with Kevin Hogan.
Coffee with Kevin Hogan. We Jeffrey Gittimer and I started at the same time, great sales trainer. And we both kind of like the same week came out. We were just talking about it one day, and I had done the National Speakers Association with him. We hung out there, and he says, kid, he says, you really need a newsletter. I said, what? What's a newsletter? It's an e-zine. Oh, well, that helps me a lot, Jeffrey. And so we started the same time in 2002, early 2002. I think it was actually April. And so this is our 19th anniversary. We've now finished 19 years going into the 20th. And Coffee with Kevin Hogan is pretty cool. Comes out Sunday night around 7 o'clock, give or take an hour. And no matter where I'm at in the world. So if it says greetings from Wrocław, Poland, or from London or whatever, that's where I'm at. And the whole idea of this is that this is what makes you good, because you can write the book. Anybody can write a book. Really, anybody can write a book. Getting it published is harder, but writing a book is something you can do. But here's the deal. Can you write a chapter a week and then look at all of these chapters and go, you know what? I got myself 4 more books here. And that's how I've been able to develop so much content over time, is I write 5,000 words a week. Doesn't sound like a lot. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. It keeps you busy, right? And sometimes I'll write and I don't think that's all that good, and you go back and you're like, the equivalent of delete, but ripping it up, and you're like, I'll start over. So the idea is how can I make people's lives better? How can I be better than every single one of the people who is going to be my competitor out there? And how can I make sure that I'm putting out stuff that they're going to charge for? All right. So that's what I do. It's like, they'll charge. I have this all the time, guys. People say, most people charge for that. I'm like, I'm well aware of that. That is correct. It's okay. And they're like, aren't you losing out on money? I'm like, no. Just think of it this way, guys. If you give this to a person and it's like from you, your heart, don't let anybody else write your stuff. Okay. No PLR, no white label, no ghostwriters. You write this as if it's you, with all your quirks and idiosyncrasies and all that. The idiosyncratic you is the most important you in the world. And when you put that into your work, then people see you. And then when you offer something that is massive, that's amazing, that's brilliant, the charisma course is pretty darn good. When you've got something like that, then people don't sit there and go, gee, I wonder if it's any good, and I wonder if I should do this. They sign up, and so Coffee with Kevin Hogan. If you go to kevinhogan.com, you can see it's on the front page. I think it's the only thing in the top above the fold piece, you can just go ahead and just subscribe there. I'm quite sure you'll be very pleased that you did it.
Yeah, I will say for sure. Absolutely. Without a doubt. What about the course? Tell us about the course, how we can sign up for it. And I know you had mentioned maybe giving a partial scholarship to my listener. I'm not sure if
That's the deal.
You were just tugging my leg on that one, or that's legit, or what? What's the deal?
The course, once we're past COVID, we'll have a better price on it for the profit factor. But right now, we're at the end of. I charge $9.95 for beta, and these people. We got a lot of people. I'm getting a lot of information. And so we're upgrading it as we go. It's like, Kev, fix this. Kev, can you do this? Well, how about this? So we're fixing it. We're making it go from pretty darn good to I'm impressed. It's pretty fun and cool. I like it. So this course basically changes the way you communicate for the rest of your life. If you notice that, for example, like we have hands and we can talk with our hands, right? We can use our hands. For example, that's just one little teeny thing, but there's things that you shouldn't do with your hands, right? Okay. All right. So most people don't know where those boundaries are. Where's the boundaries? There's boundaries for every single thing that we do. You have to be good. If you're not charismatic, you're going to have challenges in the next 2 years, probably, as we're sort of finishing up COVID over the next couple of years. It's going to take time. You got to be better than everybody else is what this amounts to. People will go to the charismatic person far before they go anywhere else. So you need it for that. That's a good thing. But this is not a sales pitch or anything of the sort. The course, the logistics are 10 weeks long. You're with me. You get to ask questions every single week. Boy, some of it, James Fitzsimmons, by the way, not to mention my names, but James writes a question every single day, a long one. It's like, Kev, and it's like, I promise to do this. And by the way, the same thing will happen when we do it again. The course is $9.95 right now because it was beta, but it won't be for you. It's $12.95. But here's the deal, though. I have done a couple of things with Ken here over the years, and I enjoy that time and appreciate it. So what you'll do is after you have registered and taken care of all that stuff, $12.95, you send me an email, and then I'll send you a PayPal for $300 back. Okay. And so that's how that works. It's really simple. Plus it forces you to actually write me a note as opposed to just like signing on and, ooh, I signed up. I hope he doesn't notice me because I don't really want to be in community. Look, you're going to learn and you're going to be good, or I don't want to deal with it. Okay. You got to be good. You got to be good. That's the deal. I want you to get better and be amazing. Okay. So that's the deal.
Let me just throw in a couple qualifiers so people understand. First and foremost, I'm putting my personal money back guarantee on this course. Unlike with a book where there's no questions asked, you have to participate in the course and do all the homework and everything that Dr. Kevin says you have to do. You have to engage, be there, be present, do the work. And if for some reason, this course will literally transform your life, your business. And if for some reason it doesn't, that's when you email me at that's when you email me at customerservice@kennewhouse.com. And then something else that I want to point out that is very, very important to me. I don't have affiliate relationships with any guests that I have on the show. So there is no money coming back to me in any way, shape, or form. God is my witness. I don't make a dime off of this, but I believe it. This man's work has impacted my life and my business so much over the years that I am thrilled to have the honor to not only have him on my show, but to be able to put my personal guarantee behind the work that he does because it's that good. And I get nothing for it other than the joy and the privilege of being able to put my name behind his work because, again, it's just that good and it's done so much for me and so many other people. So I just wanted you guys to know that I get nothing out of this other than the fact I know you're in great hands when you attend Dr. Kevin Hogan's course.
That's awesome. There is a link that I can give you right now. It'll likely be the same. It's kevinhogan.com/charismatic-communicator-video. So it's kevinhogan.com/charismatic-communicator-video. I don't know why we get.
You send me that link and I'll put that in the show notes as well. I'll put all this on the webpage as well.
That'd be great. I will do that. So thank you. And thank you for the guarantee. It's something that I'll be stunned if you actually had to call me on that one. But guys, everybody, this was a lot of fun tonight. It was fun talking to y'all, and hope everything goes well this spring for everybody and that we're all back to work in a normal way maybe by the end of summer. That would be pretty cool. Take care, everybody.
That'd be awesome. All right, man. That was sweet. That was long, but that was sweet. So I'm going to break this into 2 shows. But yeah, that was really good.
We did good. We've always done good.
Yeah. I enjoyed the content. And actually for me, it's kind of cool because I get like free With every guest, I get like free coaching. It's the perk of being the interview guest, the interview host. Anyway, all right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap. Let me just make sure that I got everything on here that I need.
That's fabulous. That'll be great. So yeah, send me a copy when you have it. And let me know. And if you can go to my Facebook and put the, like the fact that we're doing the webinar and all that, or the podcast. So that'd be great. Ken, good seeing you. And send my very best to Lisa, the beautiful, talented, and amazing skier. Take care. Bye-bye.
Now, if today's conversation was useful for you, several other episodes that you'll also find helpful in both how to be more persuasive and how to become a more engaging, charismatic presenter on Zoom and other virtual platforms include, first of all, episode 349, where David J.P. Phillips shared the secret behind how he generated over 6 million video views of his TEDx presentation on YouTube. This one secret alone will help you become magnetic and irresistible to your clients, as well as helping you build instant bulletproof credibility during your virtual presentations. And so if you're looking for a great starting point to learn how to become more credible, magnetic, charismatic, and irresistible with your virtual presentation audiences, episode 349 is an awesome place to start. And speaking of being seen as charismatic and building bulletproof credibility, not only with your clients, but with your attendees in virtual presentations, I'd also recommend episode 341, the one credibility and persuasion method that never fails. My guest on that episode was none other than my friend, Dr. Kevin Hogan. And as I mentioned earlier, along with Dr. Bob Cialdini, Kevin Hogan is considered one of the world's leading persuasion experts. And in episode 341, which is part 1 of the conversation, and episode 343 is part 2 of the conversation, Dr. Hogan reveals a methodology that has proven to be one of the most effective persuasion tools ever discovered, an approach you can easily and instantly deploy not only in your consulting presentations, but specifically during your virtual presentations like on Zoom and GoToMeeting, as well as in every interaction with both prospective and existing clients. All those episodes you can find on the KenNewhouse.com website, where you'll be able to search the entire library of conversations we've had over the last 4 years on a variety of topics that'll help you bring in more high-value clients into your consulting business, help you keep them for a lifetime, and generate more referrals. And remember, the first 150 people to register on April 1st for the free membership on KenNewhouse.com are going to get a free copy of the updated version of my book, Profitable Again, as well as a copy of my newest book, Profitable Podcast Blueprint. When you decide to register for the free membership on KenNewhouse.com, you'll have instant access to each of the conversations I've had with my guests, conversations which will be organized by topic, plus you're going to get access to my weekly strategy guide for consultants every Wednesday with special resources that I know that are going to be very, very helpful to you. You'll also get access to the notes from that week's episode, my own personal library, the member cast, all the free audio and video trainings we have available for you on the website, as well as access to the Profit Vault. The Profit Vault contains my personal swipe file of direct marketing, advertising, copywriting, every imaginable email series you can think of. It is my pride and joy, and I've spent the last 20 years building this, and you'll have access to this 100% free if you're one of the first 150 people to register for the free membership on April 1st on KenNewhouse.com. And speaking of amazing content, Dr. Alan Weiss is my guest on our next episode. And Dr. Weiss is one of those rare people who can say that he's a consultant, speaker, and author and mean it. His consulting firm, Summit Consulting Group Incorporated, has attracted clients such as Merck, Hewlett-Packard, General Electric, Mercedes-Benz, State Street Corporation, Times Mirror Group, the Federal Reserve, the New York Times, and over 400 other leading organizations. And during our conversation, Dr. Weiss and I talk about his book, $1 Million Consulting. It's a runaway bestseller. In fact, it's one of the best-selling consulting books of all time. But Dr. Weiss is going to reveal several key insights that I think are going to be very, very helpful for you, especially as we consider doing business in the new COVID economy. All right? We'll see you guys on the next episode. Take care.